My parents hated me and doted on my golden child sister, so I started dating her best friend as revenge. They told me I wasn't good enough for her and demanded I break up with her, but I refused. My sister tried taking matters into her own hands, but it backfired horribly for her. I was born with a disability, and my parents, David and Caroline, never stopped punishing me for it. As a 4-year-old, they had me tested and found out that I had lower levels of testosterone, so they used my older sister to fix it. One Christmas, when I was 12 and Jess was 15, we both asked for new bikes. She of course got hers. It was bright purple, shiny, had big wheels and everything. Meanwhile, I got a pink t-shirt, and on it read the words, Jess's little bro. Their method was simple. By destroying my self-worth, I would somehow rebuild myself, and therefore restore my masculinity and testosterone. But, as you can probably guess, their method backfired hard. I became ever more depressed and anxious the more they bullied me. Except, they didn't care anymore. Somewhere along the line, their cure turned into harsh favoritism, borderline emotional neglect. One time in school, Jess got a B- on her report card. My parents paid for a custom banner to be put on the house. On it read the words, "Our daughter got a B-" with a picture of her face at the end. And when I came home with straight A's, guess what I got? I'll give you a hint. It's 2 words, and it starts with Jack and ends with poop. And if you guessed Jack Poop, you were wrong, because it's even less than that. Both my parents trashed my room for not getting straight A+. After that, almost nothing surprised me anymore. Even when I got accepted to a solid university with a partial scholarship, my parents called me their biggest disappointment for not getting a full scholarship. Meanwhile, Jess practically flunked out and used the excuse of wanting to take a gap year. That turned into 5. And to celebrate, they threw her a party and bought her a new laptop for her creative journey. But then came one of the only, slightly better parts of this story. I managed to move out as soon as possible, working multiple jobs while taking classes to support myself. But when I couldn't afford to come home for Thanksgiving one year, my father said, "Well, I guess your priorities are elsewhere." Even after creating distance, family gatherings were torture sessions of subtle digs. Still at that starter job, Jess is thinking about starting her own boutique. She's so entrepreneurial. At my graduation, which they arrived late to, my father's first comment was, 4 years for that degree? Seems like a lot of time for what you'll be doing. What made it worse was watching them fawn over Jess, who decided to wear the most extravagant dress possible to the ceremony, so she could be the center of attention. Despite everything, I tried maintaining a relationship with Jess. She was still my sister, but it was completely one-sided. I'd reach out, and she'd either ignore me or somehow turn every conversation into a competition. If I got a promotion, she suddenly had an amazing opportunity on the horizon. If I started dating someone, she'd immediately be in a serious relationship. Once, after not hearing from her for months, I called to share news about a significant promotion. "Hey Jess, guess what? I got promoted to senior analyst." There was a pause before she responded. "Okay, anyway, I just got approached by this amazing startup. The salary is probably more than you'll ever make." Of course, the position she mentioned never existed. And when I finally landed my dream job after years of hard work, I made the mistake of mentioning it at a family dinner. "Guys, I just got my dream job and, okay, but did you hear about Jess?" My mom immediately interrupted. "She met a successful entrepreneur with connections everywhere. That man turned out to be Dwight. He wasn't a successful entrepreneur. He worked in sales at a mid-sized paper company. But the way my parents talked about him, you'd think he was the next Elon Musk." Their wedding was an extravagant affair that my parents spared no expense for. Meanwhile, I was still paying off my student loans. But then, I met one of Jess's short-term friends. And what happened next shifted the family dynamic forever, because Jess was not happy. I can't tell you the explanation in this short video. To watch the rest of the video and see what went down, click the link below. We connected instantly. Josephine was everything I wanted. Smart, funny, compassionate, and gorgeous. We met at one of Jess's many housewarming parties. She and Dwight moved nearly every year, always to bigger and better places that my parents helped finance. Josephine was standing alone near the bookshelf, looking as out of place as I felt. She had shoulder-length brown hair, intelligent green eyes, and a smile that made me forget my name mid-introduction. "Not much of a party person?" she asked, sipping her wine. "Not much of a Jess's World person," I replied before I could stop myself. Instead of being put off, she laughed genuinely. "Ah, you must be the mysterious brother I've heard about, the one with the conventional life choices." We spent the rest of the evening in that corner, talking about everything from classic literature to our shared love of terrible sci-fi movies. By the end of the night, I had her number and a date planned for the following weekend. When we started dating, my parents predictably made snide comments about how she was settling and wondering what she saw in me. "She's so cultured and well-traveled," my mother remarked after meeting Josephine. "It's surprising she's interested in someone so local." The way she said local made it sound like a terminal illness. My father was more direct. "Does she know what you make at that job of yours? Women like that usually have higher expectations." Oddly, Jess became super interested in my life, constantly asking about Josephine. She'd call out of the blue, supposedly to catch up, but every conversation turned to questions about Josephine's job, her family, her hobbies. Josephine mentioned she might get transferred to the New York office, Jess commented once, though I had never shared this information with her. "That would be hard on your relationship, wouldn't it?" At the time, I was just relieved she seemed to care about something in my life. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. Josephine and I moved in together after dating for a year, and it was amazing. Both of us had solid careers, we traveled, and discussed our future. Our apartment wasn't fancy, a one-bedroom in a decent neighborhood, but it was ours. We painted the walls ourselves, assembled IKEA furniture while laughing at the incomprehensible instructions, and created a home that felt safe and happy. "I never thought I could feel this content," Josephine told me one night as we sat on our secondhand couch, eating takeout and watching documentaries. "My parents always pushed for more, bigger, better. better. This is enough. You're enough. I finally thought I might get the life I'd always wanted. Good job, loving partner, maybe kids eventually. I proposed on our 5th anniversary with a quiet dinner at home. I'd spent months saving for the ring. Nothing ostentatious, but a beautiful emerald that matched her eyes, set in white gold. I'd hidden it in her favorite dessert, a chocolate souffle that I'd practiced making a dozen times in secret. When she found it, her eyes filled with tears. Yes, she whispered before I could even ask the question. 1,000 times yes. We planned a long engagement, taking our time to plan the wedding. We weren't rushing. We had our whole lives ahead of us, or so I thought. When we told my family about our engagement, the reactions were telling. Mom plastered on a fake smile and said, "How nice," in a tone that suggested anything but. Dad grunted and muttered, "We'll see," before turning back to his football game. Jess had the strangest reaction though. She congratulated us, but her smile was weird, almost predatory. I brushed it off as my own insecurity. "Let me see the ring," Jess demanded, grabbing Josephine's hand. She examined it with a critical eye. "Oh, it's cute. Simple. I guess that's more your style anyway." Later, I overheard my mother telling Josephine, "Don't rush into anything, dear. You're still young, and there are plenty of opportunities out there for someone like you." The implication being that I wasn't one of those opportunities. The following year was hectic with wedding planning and work stress. Josephine and I were both putting in long hours to save for the wedding and the house down payment. We weren't seeing each other as much, but I figured it was just a phase. Every relationship has rough patches, right? Our date nights became less frequent, reduced to quick dinners before one of us had to work late or catch up on sleep. When I suggested a weekend getaway to reconnect, Josephine seemed hesitant. "I don't know if I can get away right now," she said, not meeting my eyes. "The Johnson account is really demanding." I understood. We were both building our careers, and sometimes that meant sacrifices. "We'll make it work," I told her, squeezing her hand. "After the wedding, we can take that trip to Maine we've been talking about." In hindsight, I missed some obvious clues. Josephine became glued to her phone, quickly hiding text messages with a nervous laugh, claiming they were just work stuff. She started going out more with friends, coming home late smelling like wine and cologne, but I trusted her completely. It never crossed my mind she might be cheating, especially not with my own sister's husband. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to find her side of the bed empty. I wandered bleary-eyed into the living room to see her huddled on the couch, whispering intensely into her phone. When she noticed me, she jumped like she'd been caught stealing. "Sorry, did I wake you?" she asked, tucking her phone away quickly. "Just checking in with Sarah about the bridesmaids' dresses." At 2 a.m., I nodded and went back to bed, pushing away the nagging doubt. Sarah was her maid of honor and notoriously disorganized. It wasn't completely implausible. Another red flag. Josephine suddenly developed an interest in Jess and Dwight's lives. She'd bring them up in conversation, suggesting double dates and family gatherings that she'd previously tried to avoid. "We should have dinner with Jess and Dwight this weekend," she'd say casually. "I ran into Dwight at that coffee shop near my office yesterday. He mentioned a new restaurant they wanted to try." It struck me as odd that Dwight would happen to be at a coffee shop 30 minutes from his workplace, but I didn't question it. I was happy Josephine was making an effort with my family, even if they never made much effort with her. About 3 months ago, Josephine started acting strange, moody, irritable, and constantly nauseous. I got excited thinking she might be pregnant. We hadn't been trying, but we talked about having kids eventually. I started daydreaming about helping her through morning sickness, picking out nursery colors. One morning, I found her throwing up in the bathroom. I held her hair back and rubbed her shoulders soothingly. "Do you think we should get a test?" I asked, trying to contain my excitement. She looked at me with panic in her eyes. "No, I mean, it's probably just a stomach bug or food poisoning," but the symptoms persisted. She avoided wine at dinner, turned green at the smell of coffee, and took frequent naps. I began leaving pregnancy books on her nightstand, prenatal vitamin information bookmarked on her laptop. I even started researching the best pediatricians in our area. "You'd be such an amazing mom," I told her one evening as we cuddled on the couch. "Our kid would be so lucky to have you." She burst into tears and rushed to the bathroom. I assumed it was hormones and gave her space. Then one night, she sat me down with tears streaming down her face and dropped the bomb. She was pregnant, but it wasn't mine. I was stunned. We hadn't been intimate much lately because of our busy schedules, but I never expected this. When I asked who the father was, she broke down sobbing and whispered, "It's Jess's husband." My world imploded. Everything I thought I knew came crashing down. I couldn't breathe or think straight, just felt overwhelming betrayal crushing me. "Dwight?" I managed to choke out. "My sister's husband, Dwight?" Josephine nodded, her face contorted with guilt and tears. "I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to happen. It just did." "How long?" My voice sounded alien to my own ears. Flat, empty. 3 months, she admitted, staring at the floor. "It started at your parents' anniversary party." I remembered that party vividly. My parents' 40th anniversary, a lavish event they'd spent months planning. Josephine had looked stunning in a blue dress, and I'd been so proud to have her by my side. I recalled how she'd disappeared for nearly an hour, claiming she needed fresh air because the room was too warm. Dwight had been absent around the same time. I thought nothing of it. Josephine tried explaining between sobs. Apparently, it started at our engagement party. Jess's husband, Dwight, had cornered Josephine, telling her she was making a mistake marrying me. He played on her insecurities, saying he could give her everything I couldn't. And it wasn't a one-time thing. They'd been having an affair for months. "He said you'd never be able to provide the life I deserved," she cried. "That I was wasting my potential with you. And you believed him?" I asked incredulously. "After 6 years together, you believed what he said about me?" "I didn't at first," she insisted. "But he was persistent. He'd text me little things, comments about how I deserved better, observations about how your family treated you, how they might treat our children someday." My stomach lurched at the manipulation. "So what? He was just concerned for your welfare? This was all for your benefit?" "No, of course not," she whispered. "He made me feel special, desired. He said Jess didn't understand him, that they were basically roommates roommates at this point, the classic cheater's handbook. I couldn't believe Josephine had fallen for it, couldn't believe she'd betrayed me so completely. Where would you meet? I asked, needing to understand the full scope of the deception. His office mostly, sometimes hotel rooms if we could get away for lunch. She was sobbing now, makeup streaming down her face. Once at their house when Jess was visiting your parents, each word was like a knife. I thought about all the late nights at work, the weekend conferences, the sudden errands she needed to run alone. All lies. Does Jess know? I asked, suddenly thinking of my sister. Josephine shook her head. No, at least I don't think so. Dwight said he'd handle telling her when the time was right. I laughed bitterly. When the time is right? And when exactly is the right time to tell your wife you've been fucking her brother's fiancé and got her pregnant? I kicked Josephine out that night. I couldn't stand looking at the woman who'd betrayed me so completely. She begged forgiveness, saying it was a mistake and she loved me. But all I could think about was how many times she'd lied to my face while wearing my ring. Please, she sobbed as she hastily packed a bag. We can work through this. People make mistakes. I love you, not him. If you loved me, you wouldn't have spread your legs for my sister's husband. I spat, the words tasting like poison in my mouth. If you loved me, you wouldn't have lied to me for months while planning our wedding. I was going to end it, she insisted. The pregnancy wasn't planned. We used protection. Not good enough apparently, I said coldly. Get out. You have 30 minutes to take what you need. Anything left behind goes in the trash. She tried touching my arm. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, Josephine. Dwight's office maybe? Since you're so familiar with it. Or perhaps one of those hotels you enjoyed so much. It's not my problem anymore. After Josephine left, I called Dwight. I don't remember exactly what I said. It was all a blur of rage and pain. He initially tried playing it cool, claiming it was just a drunken mistake that meant nothing. When I pressed him, he got defensive, saying, well, maybe if you'd been a better fiancé, she wouldn't have come to me. Are you fucking kidding me? I yelled into the phone. You're blaming me for you sleeping with my fiancé? You've got some nerve. Look man, I'm sorry it happened this way, he said with artificial remorse. But Josephine and I connected on a level that you two never did. She needs someone who can match her ambition. And that's you? I laughed without humor. A mediocre salesman riding on my parents' handouts? What exactly are you going to provide for her and this baby? Because as far as I can tell, you've never provided anything for yourself. He grew cold then. You've always been jealous of what Jess and I have. Now I've got Josephine too. Think about that while you're alone in that pathetic apartment you call home. I saw red. I drove straight to their house, planning something I'd probably regret. The drive was a blur. I don't even remember stopping at traffic lights or making turns. All I could think about was confronting Dwight face to face, making him feel even a fraction of the pain consuming me. When I arrived, my parents were already there. Dwight had called them first, spinning some story about Josephine seducing him and how sorry he was. And of course they believed him. They always do. I burst through the door without knocking to find them all sitting in the living room like some kind of twisted intervention. My mother was patting Dwight's shoulder consolingly, while my father stood with his arms crossed, looking grave. Jess was noticeably absent. Well, look who finally showed up, my father said, his voice dripping with disapproval. Care to explain why you're threatening your brother-in-law? Brother-in-law? I echoed in disbelief. You mean the man who's been sleeping with my fiancé for months? The man who got her pregnant while married to your daughter? My mother gasped. Josephine's pregnant? Oh, Dwight, you poor thing. What a mess that girl has created. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you serious right now? He cheated on your daughter with my fiancé. How is Josephine the only one at fault here? Mom immediately started lecturing me about forgiveness and family, while Dad stood there with his arms crossed, looking disappointed in me, not in precious Dwight. I tried explaining what really happened, but they wouldn't listen. They kept saying I needed to forgive Dwight and support Josephine through her pregnancy, because family comes first. You don't understand the pressure Dwight's under, my mother insisted. Jess hasn't been very attentive lately. Men have needs. Are you actually justifying him cheating on your daughter? I asked, incredulous. Where is Jess anyway? Does she know what her husband's been doing? My father cleared his throat. Jess is upstairs resting. She's understandably upset, but she's willing to work through this. That's what mature adults do. They don't run around making accusations and threats. Dwight has agreed to couples counseling, my mother added, as if this solved everything. He's taking responsibility for his actions, which is more than I can say for you. Me? What have I done except be betrayed by everyone I trusted? You've always been dramatic, my father sighed, always making everything about you. This situation requires delicacy and understanding, not your usual tantrum. Dwight sat there smugly, playing the contrite husband. I've apologized to Jess, and she's forgiven me. Josephine and I made a mistake, but now we have to think about the baby. That's when I lost it. Years of bottled resentment exploded. I told them exactly how I felt about their twisted loyalty, how they'd always favored Jess and her husband over me, never taking my side or supporting me. I told Dwight he was dead to me. I told my parents they could have the family they always wanted because they didn't have me anymore. You know what? I'm done, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Done with all of you. For 34 years I've tried to earn your love and respect, and it's never been enough. Nothing I do has ever mattered compared to anything Jess does. That's not true, my mother protested weakly. We love you both equally. I laughed bitterly. That's a lie and you know it. When Jess crashes a car, it's an accident. When I get straight A's, it's expected. When Jess drops out of college, she gets a party. When I graduate with honors, I get a handshake. You've always been stronger, my father said. You didn't need the same support Jess did. No, you just didn't want to give it to me, I countered. And now your precious son-in-law has knocked up my fiancé, and somehow I'm still the bad guy. I turned to Dwight then. You're pathetic. A cheating, lying coward who's never worked for anything in his life. You think you've won something here? Congratulations on your prize. A woman who cheats on her fiancé. I'm sure she'll be completely faithful to you. I stormed out, ignoring their calls and pleas. I drove aimlessly for hours, just wanting to escape everything and everyone. When I finally got home, I had dozens of missed calls and messages. Josephine begging for another chance, Dwight alternating between apologies and accusations. Most came from my parents, demanding I grow up and make amends. You're tearing this family apart with your stubbornness, my mother's voicemail declared. Josephine is in a fragile condition and needs support, not judgment. My father was more direct. This childish behavior ends now. Be at Sunday dinner to apologize to Dwight and work this out like a man. There were even messages from Jess, which surprised me. I've forgiven Dwight, and you should too, she said coldly. Josephine made a mistake, but the baby is innocent in all this. We need to come together as a family. Not a word about how she felt about her husband's betrayal, not a shred of empathy for what I was going through. Just the same old family script. Protect the favored ones. Blame me for not falling in line. I ignored them all, barely eating or sleeping. I called out sick from work, using all my available time off. I couldn't face anyone or deal with explaining what happened. I just sat in my apartment, replaying every moment of my relationship with Josephine and every interaction with Dwight, trying to figure out where things went wrong. Was I not attentive enough? Did I miss signs that Josephine was unhappy? Was there something I could have done differently? The questions tormented me day and night. After a week of isolation, my boss called personally. "We're concerned about you," she said. "This isn't like you. Is there anything we can do?" I broke down then, telling her everything. She listened without judgment, then offered me a temporary transfer to our Seattle office. "It might help to have some distance," she suggested. "Take a few months, clear your head. The position is yours when you're ready to come back." It felt like the first kindness anyone had shown me in ages. I accepted immediately. It's been 3 months now. I've moved to a new apartment in Seattle, changed my phone number, and started therapy to process all this, but my family won't back off. Despite my attempts to cut contact, they keep invading my life. Somehow they tracked down my new workplace address, probably through my parents' friends who seem to be everywhere. They've started showing up at my workplace, trying to ambush me and force a reconciliation. Mom confronts me in the parking lot, wailing about how I'm tearing the family apart. Dad leaves harsh voicemails telling me to man up and forgive Dwight. Last week, my mother cornered me as I was leaving the office. "This has gone on long enough," she insisted, blocking my path to my car. "Josephine is 6 months along now. She needs closure, and so does Dwight." "I've given them closure," I replied, trying to step around her. "It's called cutting them out of my life." "How can you be so selfish?" she demanded. "This isn't just about you anymore. There's an innocent child involved. A child that wouldn't exist if Dwight hadn't betrayed both me and his wife," I reminded her. "That's not on me." She tried a different tactic then, her voice softening. "We miss you. Your father and I want our son back. You never wanted me when I was there," I said sadly. "Why start now? They've even sent flying monkeys in the form of extended family to guilt trip me. Aunts, uncles, and cousins I haven't spoken to in years, suddenly calling to tell me how important family is and how I should let bygones be bygones. It's like they're living in an alternate reality where Dwight and Josephine made some minor mistake rather than a life-altering betrayal. My cousin Rick, who I haven't spoken to since his wedding 5 years ago, texted out of nowhere. Family sticks together through thick and thin. Your parents are heartbroken. Whatever happened can be fixed with enough love and forgiveness. Aunt Patty, my mother's sister, left a voicemail so laden with guilt it could sink a ship. Your poor mother can barely get out of bed some days worrying about you. Is this how you repay all their sacrifices? By turning your back when the family needs unity? I wanted to scream. What sacrifices? What unity? Where was this concern for family cohesion when I was growing up feeling like an outsider in my own home? Yesterday, I got a message from Josephine. She's keeping the baby and plans to co-parent with Dwight. And guess what? My parents are thrilled about becoming grandparents, forgetting all the awful comments they used to make when Josephine was with me. The message was full of apologies and justifications, including how she and Dwight had found real love through this difficult situation. She even had the audacity to suggest we could all be friends eventually for the child's sake. "I know this isn't how any of us planned things to work out," her message read, "but sometimes life takes unexpected turns. Dwight and I have found something genuine together, and we hope you can find happiness too. The baby is a boy, by the way. We're thinking of naming him David, after your father. We'd love for you to be in his life as his uncle." The irony was almost too much to bear. The woman who betrayed me wanting me to play happy uncle to the child she conceived through that betrayal, and naming him after my father, the ultimate way to ensure my parents would overlook any wrongdoing. I'm at my wit's end. Part of me wants to cut ties completely and start fresh somewhere else, maybe move across the country, change my name, and build a new life where nobody knows about this mess. But another part is so angry I want to stay and fight, to show them how fucked up this whole situation is. My therapist says I need to process my feelings rather than run from them, but also that I have every right to establish boundaries. "Your family has shown a consistent pattern of disregarding your feelings and needs," she observed. "It's not unreasonable to distance yourself from that dynamic, but distance doesn't seem to be enough. They keep finding ways to infiltrate my life, to force their narrative that I'm the problem, not them. I don't know what to do anymore. The betrayal has affected every aspect of my life. I can't sleep without medication. I can't stand being alone with my thoughts. I haven't even considered dating again. The idea of trusting someone like that terrifies me. What if I'm just unlovable?" I asked my therapist during a particularly dark session. "What if there's something fundamentally wrong with me that makes people treat me this way?" "There's nothing wrong with you," she assured me. "But when we grow up in dysfunctional systems, we sometimes recreate those dynamics unconsciously. Your family trained you to accept less than you deserve. The good news is, you can untrain those patterns. I've also lost friends over this, ones who think I should take the high road and reconcile with my family, as if I'm the bad guy for refusing to play happy families with the people who hurt me the most. My college roommate Tom, who's known me for years, surprised me with his take. Families are complicated, man. Yeah, what they did was awful, but at some point, you have to move on. Blood is blood. I cut him off immediately. Blood clearly meant nothing to my family. Why should it mean anything to me? The thought of Josephine and Dwight raising a child together, a child that could have been mine, is like a constant knife in my gut. I understand logically that the child is innocent in all this. It's not the baby's fault its parents are lying, cheating scumbags, but I can't make myself feel good about its existence. My parents have started talking about how I should be involved in the child's life and how I'll be an uncle. The concept makes me physically ill. How can I look at this kid and not see the ultimate symbol of my sister's husband's betrayal? So Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to forgive my sister's husband and ex-fiancé? Am I wrong to want to cut ties with my family over this? Any advice on how to move forward would be appreciated, because right now, I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of betrayal and gaslighting. Sorry for the novel-length post. If you made it this far, thank you. Writing all this out has been somewhat therapeutic. I'm not sure what I'm hoping to gain: validation, guidance, or just the chance to scream into the void and have someone, anyone, hear me.